recording. All right. Well, welcome to Beyond Sunday. I'm Steve, and I am here with one of my very dear friends, Grego Boyle. I mean, friend is, I think, an understatement. We have been brothers pretty much in ministry for almost 15 years. No, it will be 15 years in
Really?
this fall, but like, I mean, our families, we are family, I would say more so than we are just friends.
For
Um,
sure.
and it's just crazy how God brought us together all those years ago. Just like like you welcoming Sarah and I into your home up in Canada back in, I think it was December of 2011, was just like, who knew it would start this long, fantastic friendship. You've
Yep.
been a mentor to me, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do, Greg. I didn't introduce you. I should have introduced you first. This is my dear friend, Greg O'Boyle. He's a pastor at Calvary Baptist Church in Meadville, but he has been all over the place. And that's one of the reasons why I brought him here, because part of our teen ministry is our Canada mission trip. And this man right here is the reason why that he and his family started a church in Canada. Goodness gracious. How long was that? 2010 you guys started?
We arrived there in 2009. We didn't really get the church functional or moving in that direction until about 2011. So you guys
Okay.
were at the cusp of when things were beginning. The Bible study was beginning to look toward, Sunday ministries, and
Okay.
you guys were at the very beginning of that. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew we were towards the beginning phase of it all, because I knew
yep,
well, the first time we came up, I think you guys were meeting in your living room.
right.
But before we jump all into that, let's talk about your ministry life. Like, what did you feel like your longing was? Why did you choose vocational ministry, like going into ministry?
That goes back to my childhood and camp ministry. Going to Christian camp every summer, having received Christ at a young age of 5, but camp played a big part in, I think, the desire, calling towards
Mhm.
ministry. And at the age of 12, I remember, surrendering my life at a campfire at camp, as many do,
Yeah.
and saying, Lord, I'm willing. And just having a strong sense of God give me a burden to be a pastor. And at 12, you don't really understand what that means necessarily, but I was saying, Lord, I'm willing, whatever. And didn't know this till later in life, but my mom, who died when I was 14,
Yeah.
had been praying that one of her children would be in ministry. And I was part of that. My sister's also married to a pastor and very involved. So, God has answered her prayer in that way. So I ran from it in high school. I began to say, well, that won't be cool. My friends wouldn't think it's really very cool that, you want to be a pastor. So I kind of ran from it, but I still remember the bus ride home, looking out the window, and I can still remember the exact street, the exact house I was looking at, and saying, Lord, I'm sorry. I know this is what you want, and I won't be happy unless I'm doing what you want me to do. And I resurrendered that back to him and started telling my friends when they'd ask. I didn't offer it, but when they ask, I say, "Oh, I'm gonna be a pastor," and they're like, "Greg, that's really cool. I can see you doing that." And so it was the total opposite of what I expected from my unsaved,
Yeah.
public school friends, but their response was very affirming. And so yeah, just began to pursue that then through choice of college and pursuing ministry that way, and that was a long
Yeah.
time ago.
No, it's not, man. That's crazy. I don't know. We've had to have talked about this at some point
Sure.
over the years. But like, I mean, it sticks out to me. 12 years old. That's when I felt called to ministry as well. And I didn't think it was going to be cool, but like, that's where you and I veer off in our stories and our testimony of going into ministry. Like, your friends affirmed it. I did not get that
That was
very much.
interesting.
I'm not blaming my friends. That was
Yeah.
on me. That's crazy, just how, God has different paths for everybody in this. So like your wonderful wife Anne, who is a
Mhm.
massive part of your ministry over the years.
Mhm.
Where does Anne come into the picture?
I transferred from a larger Christian university in 1988. I was on a wrestling scholarship and just realized, yeah, I love it, but not that much. And
Yeah.
felt like I would get a different and a better education, be honest with you. So I transferred to a small Bible college in northeastern Pennsylvania, and met Ann within the first week, I think, when I was there. And she'll tell you this, so I'm not making this up, but that she right away kind of had a crush on me, and I liked her as a friend, but I knew that she liked me, and I could just sense it, and I was uncomfortable for about a year,
Yeah.
maybe a year and a half, about a year and 3 or 4 months, and finally I relented and said, you know what, Ann Burnside, I need to ask her out.
Mm.
And we our dates always centered around just discussions about life and ministry, and I realized, yeah, she was the one pretty much right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So you guys met here. So that was your second year of college. You guys met.
Actually, my first year, but it was the second semester.
Oh, okay. You
When
transferred
we
after the
met.
first. Gotcha.
Yep.
I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
went right semester. Yep.
You would think that I'd be able to pick up on details as we're having the conversation. Like,
I get it. I get it.
so all right. So you guys meet. When did you guys got married in 1991?
1991.
Um,
Yep. Yeah.
were you guys already in like ministry, like in a full time capacity at that point, or was that before
No,
you took your first job?
I was in seminary at the time when we got married, and kind of going part time because I made a commitment. I wanted to be debt free. Ending seminary, so that meant working 40 plus hours, and then we had a child in '93. Calvin came along, and
Yeah.
as a result, that kind of slows the process down a tad, or just makes life really hard. And yeah, so I sludged through seminary from '91 to '96 when I finally graduated. But God did some amazing things, just providing for us financially at the end of our time.
Yeah.
And when I ended my internship at First Baptist Church in St. Louis, Michigan, where I grew up, um, not only did they call me to be their pastor, but I made a mistake on my taxes, and lo and behold, I got a return that I didn't expect, and it was enough to pay off my debt. And so we ended seminary debt free,
Oh,
and
praise God. That's awesome.
God led me to my home church to be their pastor. So it was really, I just kept seeing God just continue to just open doors, and they're the right doors
Yeah.
for me. And so it was just
Yeah.
pretty clear His direction, because I had always
So,
had a burden to go back to my home church and,
yeah,
and help them be functional and growing.
that's awesome. And so, how long did you lead that church?
I was there from '96 for my internship until 2005, so 9 years.
Okay. And then in 2005, where'd you go from there?
Yeah, 2005 and 2000, even before that, but we kind of put off the nagging of our hearts. We just always sensed God. We always said when I was going to marry Ann, she had some hesitancy when we were talking about future and ministry and marriage. And her hesitancy was that I was only going to be a pastor. She always thought God wanted her to be a missionary, and pastors are here and missionaries are here, and
Okay.
uh, and obviously, she realized, oh no, we're doing the same thing, just different. All matters about location. And so
Yeah, it's just less comfortable.
we laugh about that today. It's fun. Um, but yeah, so missions was always still kind of, and we reached out to international students at in seminary at Keystone Junior College, and then we also, when we got to Michigan, reached out to international students at Elma College. We hosted a South Korean student as an exchange student in our home when our kids were young. I think about how busy my wife was, and just oh man, she was busy and did a lot. And I think, oh Greg, you could have slowed down. And even today, probably she could say, yeah, you could still slow down. But that just continued to foster a desire to minister cross culturally as we
Yeah.
engage with these students. And so when we took Unji Kim back to the airport and said goodbye, um, that flood of desire returned immense.
Gotcha. So she was from China,
And no, she was actually from South Korea.
South Korea. Okay. So,
Yep.
what led you guys to China? Like, so China, the Chinese culture ends up becoming like your primary mission field, like
Yeah.
ministering to people from the Chinese culture. So,
Yep.
like, when did that desire start growing, and like, what led you to?
Probably in 2004, the missions ministry pull was, in our hearts for a while, and it just intensified, especially after we dropped off our exchange student. But in my heart of hearts, I had told God no to one people group,
Hmm.
and mainly because I had two experiences, one in college, one in seminary, and I came away not impressed.
Hmm.
And so I, like we humans do, stereotyped and said, nope, I don't like that people group. And
Hmm.
that people group was China and Chinese.
Hmm.
But as we met with our mission, one of our, before we were even heading toward mission, we were just exploring. And the gentleman that we talked with ran through from A to Z where they have ministry. And when he got to China, sorry, I remember again in my heart, I can tell you the exact room and feeling I had was God saying, really? You're going to say no to people I've created?
Hmm.
And so I, in my heart, said, Lord, if that's what you want, I'm willing. And from that point on, man, it just the intensity and the openings just kept happening. We went through a major struggle of trying to figure out where. So
Yeah.
for about a year and a half, we raised support. Once we committed to that and went through candidate class, and God just seemed to be leading us toward Mandarin speaking Chinese, mainland Chinese. And we were excited about it. The team that was in China was an amazing group of people,
Yeah.
and we really wanted to work with them, but we just didn't sense that that was a long term thing for us. I kind of always sensed that we needed to be in an English speaking or some sort of context where we could help because I know my abilities language wise and they're not good to learn new languages. Anyway, long story short, God just amazingly gave us experiences in Hong Kong for 2 weeks or 1 week. And then we went to China, and I said, "Yeah, I don't want to live in China. That was just polluted, and it was not what I. It was not Hong Kong. Two very different
Hmm.
cultures." We ended up in Canada, working with Mandarin-speaking Chinese, who were
Yes.
there, knew a little bit of English, and that became our glue. But we ended up spending 2 years in China, learning Chinese, studying culture. I struggled immensely, but I loved the people. I grew
Oh
to
my goodness.
so appreciate the hospitality, the kindness, the welcoming spirit that they offered to us. Everything I had stereotyped them was not completely wrong, but at the same time, it was not the full picture, just like all
Mm.
of us.
Sure.
uh, and so it was neat when I began to really just began to love so much about their culture.
Yeah.
That led us to Canada then to work with the Chinese immigrants who have moved there, looking for a better life in the Western world and better education and all those things. And it was so we moved there in 2009 after St. Louis and after 2 years in China, and
Yeah.
loved it. Yep.
Oh yeah. Going back to like where we kind of started in this segment, um, like when we say no to things, like when we already have this predisposition in our head, like I will do anything but
Mm-hmm.
this. Like that, I feel like that is always where God steps in and says, "Let me show you how this is gonna. Like I can do this
Yeah,
through you."
that's true.
And I love that. I mean, how many times? I mean, I'm sure that's not the only incident in your life where you said no to God, and God's like, "I'm going to show you how I could do this through you,"
Yeah,
and how it's grown you. And I think it's always a great lesson for anybody. It's like the things that we sometimes desire the least in life are the things that when we allow God to get a hold of them, He could show us how it can be done and done with excellence.
exactly.
Because I mean, that's what I learned from you guys. I mean, that in your years of ministry in Canada, it was like your devotion to those people. I would have never known at any point you would have ever said, not this though, God. Like
True.
anything but this, because of just the bond, and I mean that's what like we learned over time. I mean, the hospitality of the Chinese families that we were with was above and beyond anything I've ever experienced.
Yep.
Once you earned their trust, any one of those families' trust, you were like part of the family. And that's what
Yep.
we still experience to this very day. Not that I want to skip too far forward, but even to this very day, like those people that we've made bonds with, 15 years ago, Sarah and I made bonds with 15 years ago. They have never forgotten us. They
Right.
check in with us, and it's like it's always warm and welcome. And it's like such a blessing because like when we say no to things, it's because of our lack of completely understanding the full picture of it. Which I like. I mean, I've learned that lesson myself in ministry. It's like, no, God, not this, and then God's like, I'm gonna show you how we're gonna get this done.
Hmm.
So what an incredible, incredible blessing. So you guys did 2 years in mainland China. Where were you guys at in
We
mainland
were
China?
we were right in Beijing.
Beijing.
Yeah.
Um, 2 full years.
Yep.
Not really knowing the language.
It
Not
was more like 18 months because we came home during the summer during the Olympics in
okay.
2008. We had a couple family weddings to be here for. And but then we went back because my language, it was supposed to only be 6 months, then it was a year, then it became 2 years because I admitted that I was struggling with the language. And
Yeah.
which, again, thinking back, it's a lifetime of learning. And yeah, I had to make up for it in other ways, but 2 years in China
Yeah, yeah,
for the
yeah.
most part.
I mean, you learned some basics of the Mandarin language. It is
Yeah.
like, it is, I mean, it is so impossibly difficult to learn. Just like people say, like English is impossibly difficult to learn if it's not
Yeah.
native.
Yep.
Chinese is like Mandarin Chinese, for certain is the exact same. I would have to imagine the Cantonese is
No,
similar.
Cambridge another level beyond that. But
Yeah,
and here's the neat thing: we only spent 1 week in Hong Kong, where they speak Cantonese. Well, back in the '90s, um, many people immigrated from Hong Kong to Canada,
yeah,
and so little did I know how God was going to use 1 week in Hong Kong to give me a window into even the dynamics of the Hong Kong Chinese versus the mainland Chinese,
yeah,
and just the relationship and the distrust and all that. It was just, again, God used our initial intent of going to Hong Kong to work. So we went to explore that. And looking back, it was just like, wow, God knew all along, even though in our mistake of choosing a wrong field, in a sense,
yeah,
ended up being such a blessing to us because my neighbor was Hong Kong Chinese on my right side, and
yeah,
on my other side was mostly mainland Chinese. And so watching that interaction and kind of oh, I get it now. It just all came together. So God
yeah.
just he never wastes anything, and he never makes mistakes with our lives, even sometimes when we think we've made mistakes.
No way. And what I always loved about what you guys did was like from pretty much year one, you guys did this Christmas party where you invited the entire neighborhood. And I don't know if anybody really gets how culturally diverse Toronto is.
Hmm.
Toronto is insanely culturally diverse. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't even know. I think the closest comparison I would have is like when I've gone to New York in the
Hmm.
past on mission trips, how diverse it is there. It is the exact same way in Toronto, especially where you guys were at. You guys were in Markham, Ontario, which was mostly Chinese. I think it was like 80% Chinese. But I mean, like every culture was represented. I mean, and Caucasian was kind of the minority.
Right, for
Oh,
sure.
not even kind of was the minority, like
Right,
mainly
right.
the smallest minority. Um, and so so let's talk about the very beginnings of the church, like the Bible study. So you guys are start in Canada in 2009, and I think you were like a member of a church there just to build relationships, right, with people.
Yeah, we started working with a different church for a while, and they were Cantonese speaking, wanting to
Hmm.
Mandarin speaking. Then they bring in these Americans who are English speaking to try to reach Mandarin speaking. So we did that for about a year and realized maybe a year and 3 or 4 months, and it just wasn't working. My kids
Yeah.
were suffering through three different translations or two translations, and it was painful.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
good people, and good
Sure.
intent, but it wasn't what we were there to do in that sense. So we asked our neighbors, whom we had gotten to know a little bit. I think Maggie had once said, "You guys ever argue?" And we looked at each other, Ann and I, like, never, which was not true. So we started a marriage Bible study
Yeah.
with Maggie and Chiego and a couple of friends that they had. And again, it was all about trust. And once we built that trust with them, the web began to just spread. They began to invite others into our web, in a sense, not in a negative sense, but in the sense of just showing them the truth and love of Jesus.
Yeah.
and how he can heal relationships. And so that was kind of the beginning of it. And probably around 2010, we were doing that. And in 2011, we basically said, all right, we're fully committed. We're going to stop doing this and we're going to commit to this study in the neighborhood. And from there, it just began to, we got introduced to various friends. And from that, Maggie and Tiago were Taiwanese. And then we met another couple, Luke and Michelle, who were Taiwanese. So we had
Yep.
this, Cantonese, Taiwanese, Mandarin, mainland Chinese mix in our group. And they're all different. They're all
Oh
very
yeah.
culturally
Big.
similar, but different. And
It's
so it was unique.
very
And
much so. Like that's some of the stuff that I learned, like just from being there. I would have never known. Like, especially with the Taiwanese, like that is not something you want to mix up with mainland Chinese at
mhm.
all. That is like so
Mhm.
taboo. But
And yet,
yeah,
in the body of Christ, we were bringing them together, and that was
yeah,
the
exactly.
that was the beautiful thing. We were one body, and that was challenging at times, but overall, I think we were successful in helping them see that hey, we're part of one family, God's family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, and that's what I loved. Like our first like real interaction with you guys, like in person. We came to your house. I don't remember what day of the week it was. I just remember you guys had a TV set up in your like living room. Like you guys had like it kind of looked like I mean it was like your living room, but it kind of had like a book nook. But you had like your TV set up, and then that was church. Like you did church in there, and then kids' church was downstairs in like the
right.
guest bedroom play area
Mm-hmm.
kind of place.
It
That's
was
I
not
mean,
very big. It was a townhouse, so the
yeah,
balcony was the stairs.
yep. The balcony. Yeah. Did anybody ever use that as a balcony?
Oh yeah,
Like,
we would have three or four, six people sitting on the stairs, usually my boys and a
yeah,
couple other people, and that was church.
yeah.
For about a year and a half.
Yeah, but you think about it though, it's like what God was using you guys for, like in a place that is so radically unchurched. Like there's like Canada in general is not an overtly Christian country. It's not really baked into the culture necessarily because it is so culturally diverse, and so many people bring, their own faiths from whatever background they're from. Christianity doesn't really stand out. There's churches, but they're small, small. I mean, there's a few
Hmm.
large
Yeah,
churches.
there's some big ones around us, and actually the Chinese were doing a really good job. But many of the churches that were there, the Chinese churches, were Cantonese speaking with
Really?
with a Mandarin service. And so they were trying to reach their people, but they had to provide a different service because the languages were different at the core. And
Yeah.
or the core was similar, but it was different in expression.
Oh, yeah.
And and so even though they were there, it was still there's that tension between that. And so and again, um, we just sensed that's where God wanted us, and we enjoyed the time that we had. You mentioned the Christmas open houses. That was our brainchild from back in seminary days, and didn't do it all the way through our life, but at Canada it really blossomed because that was
Oh
the
my
way
goodness.
friends would invite friends to meet this strange American couple who
Yeah.
loved Chinese people in Canada. And
Yeah.
so we were an anomaly in many ways, and we would make a lot of food, and they would bring their own food. We'd ask some of our people that we were friends with to bring dishes, and
Yep.
it was just a delightful fellowship time. And it was really no major agenda besides relationship building,
Yeah.
um, hoping to be able to share the love of Jesus with them over time.
Yeah. It was, and I'll be honest, like that was Sarah and I's favorite time of the entire year. Was
Mm-hmm.
it was Christmas time, not because of like, the lights in the tree and all the traditions.
Mm-hmm.
It was coming to your house to be with you guys for those like 3 days where we would just
Well,
help you.
in many ways, you guys were key to making that happen because it
Oh,
was a lot of work when you guys would come up and making the food, cleaning the house, just all that went into it. And before that, we would always make up a little invite with our family picture on it, so people knew who we were and what house they were coming to, and we'd hand it out to all of our neighbors on our street and the street over. And then usually it would spread to other people. And now when we go back in the summers, many of those neighbors, if I can still make contact with, and
oh yeah.
they'll remember that. And
Yeah.
it's fun.
It was such that was such a special thing. I mean, I just absolutely loved it because I mean the amount of questions we would get just as Americans was always wild, especially right around the I think the 2016 election. That was
Oh,
an
right.
interesting time in and of itself. I'm
Yep.
like,
Yep.
I don't represent
Yeah. Right. Right.
anything
Right.
like that, but it was like we got like just nailed with questions sometimes. But the love of the people and the connectivity, and just the welcome that they always felt like coming into your home. It was just always just so incredible and so special. And I feel like it was the very heart of what like even the Christmas season was supposed to be is like us connecting with one another with the common purpose of like sharing the love of Jesus Christ. I always felt like you guys represented that so well.
Mhm.
I mean, all year long, but like at that time, just opening your home up to, I felt like it was hundreds of people.
Yeah,
Like,
I think we did get over 100, at least 2 years while we were there. It
yeah,
was amazing because friends would invite friends,
yeah,
and it was cool. Our kids would invite their teachers from the high school, and they would come.
yep.
And we met me here in Victoria that way because they were youth leaders for our kids
Yeah.
at another church where the kids would go to the youth group there. And then me here in Victoria ended up joining us, and he's Indian and she's South Korean descent. And our church became very multicultural because of just these connections. And now today, me here studying for ministry, and it's just
I
pretty
know.
cool. He was a Christian when he came to us, so
Yeah.
but I was able to come alongside and encourage him in that. So that was cool.
Yeah. So let's talk about the growth of the church. So you guys start off, at what point where you're like, all right, we got to start looking for a building? I can't remember what year it
I think it
was. I
was
think,
2012, if I remember right. Anne was, again, this was such a tough time because Anne was not diagnosed yet, but we started the church. There was one Sunday, she was downstairs with the kids, and no, it was a Wednesday night, and she was working with the kids. And I basically looked at the group. I said, "How many of you guys would want to meet on Sundays?" And almost all their hands went up. Well, Anne didn't
Mhm.
get a vote because she was downstairs, and I was so eager to pastor and shepherd on a regular basis. You know, I was doing the outreach and making friends in the neighborhood and that kind of thing, but I really longed to disciple and mentor these beyond Wednesdays, and that was
Yeah.
our Wednesday study. So that next Sunday, and I think it was 2012, and I think the next 6 months she ended up getting, breast cancer diagnosed, and
Yeah.
so that just sent us into a different realm of working through that. But we still maintained doing church a lot of times. Sometimes she would just have to stay up in her room.
Yeah.
We did that through that whole process, and
Yeah.
yep, and did a lot, put up with a lot, and she's been a great teammate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like we could talk about the challenges of ministry within that. I mean, you guys are in a full, not like I mean, doing ministry in general is hard. It's never easy, like because like you're dealing with difficult things, like people bringing difficult problems to the table. Like as being in ministry, you can wear a lot of that. But most of the time, we have the comfort of also being around our people. Like we are like at home.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the mission field brings that extra level of challenge. Because I mean, not that you guys hadn't made family there, but it's still newer, and so it ends up with this diagnosis um, that would be a challenge for you guys. How did that affect ministry for you guys? Like, is that a fair question? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard question because I don't want to answer on Anne's behalf because
Sure.
it's probably different for her.
Yeah.
Um, I think in one sense, they watched us process through this,
Hmm.
and many wanted to just say superstitiously, well, just think it's a bad cold and you can overcome it with power of positive thinking. And that was some of the mindset that some had. And we had to say, no, we live in a sin cursed fallen world and bad things happen. And we don't always know why, but it's
Mm,
because sin has brought about a curse.
mm,
So it gave us some great teaching opportunities to help them understand sin, creation, fall, redemption, and restoration, and see that whole process that we have a greater hope. But yeah, it rocked our world first,
oh yeah.
personally, and so they watched us work through that process of fear and grief, and then all the process of treatments and losing her hair and then all that. But Anne was a warrior, and she came out of it strong, and has been a blessing to many others as a result, because she's still with
Yeah.
us today. Praise God.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then I think it was 3 years later, she had another form of breast cancer on the other side, and had to go through similar treatments again. And
Yeah.
so again, she was tested, and yeah, you wonder sometimes how much Satan plays into that. I'm sure he does a lot, just in the sense that
Mhm.
we're doing his work and trying to discourage us and keep us not focused on what we need to focus on. And yet, God used it for sure to be a testament
Yeah.
to our brothers and sisters of what it looks like to suffer and still
Yeah.
keep your eyes on the goal.
Yeah. And like God sees you through it every step of the way. Like even when you're in a place where you're not at home, not like necessarily at your most comfortable place, in a place that you're just trying to follow God's call.
Mm-hmm.
He's the provider, and
Yep.
he's the protector. And I saw him do that work in and through you guys in that time. And so, we got get and not to say it was like just, I mean, as an observer of it, not and person obviously cared a lot about you guys and praying for you guys, like, but just watching how God continued to use you and your whole family in that time was just incredible, and just an incredible testimony of God's power for his people, like how he could see them through the most challenging aspects of life
Yeah,
in an
sometimes you
environment.
just forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just forget how he did sustain you and sustain
Hmm.
us through that. But I know he did,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't easy all the time. There were days
Oh.
where, you know, but there's no question that we knew why we were there, and
Hmm.
we continue to keep our eyes on him. Some
Yeah.
days were easier than others. Some days were harder than others.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but in the process, I know that yeah, God did sustain us through that, and
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was
harder
just.
as a husband because not it's not harder as a husband. I'm not saying that in that sense, but
Yeah, I know.
it's just different because Anne was the one who was suffering physically and not always knowing how to help her, because there's certain things I couldn't do. I
Yep.
couldn't take it away,
Yeah.
and I could only walk with her through that process and be there for her. And
Hmm.
that's my ability. I tried. Not sure. I know I didn't do it perfectly, but again, she was amazing. She started writing blogs about it, and has God's used that in certain ways to minister to others who are in that same process. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Like, yeah, just very, very powerful thing. Yeah. And praise God, like cancer free and been
yeah,
great
yep.
ever since. So let's talk about like those early years. So we talked about the Christmas party, but like what like happened 6 months later is our very first mission trip. Like you had a vision for how New Life at that time could come alongside your church, Journey Church. Was it called Journey Church at that point?
I don't know if it was right away. I can't remember when we
Yeah.
ended up adopting the name. It was early on though,
Yeah.
because Tony and I had gotten talking about what we want, and Tien Lu Jiahue would end up being the name. On the Way, I think, is what Tien Lu, the Heavenly Way, or something like that. So it became Journey Church.
Okay.
In the English, but he helps us. And I don't remember exactly. It may have been 2013, so it would have been a couple years later, I think, that we
Yeah.
had
Our first.
finalizing.
Go.
No, that's basically that's about when we finalized the name, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, the first mission trip was 2012. Like we brought a
yeah.
small team. I think it was like 9 students and maybe 4 or 5 leaders
Okay.
to that very first year. But I remember it just being like such an amazing experience. I like, it was just like that immediate connection and just all made sense and all fit. So your vision for it was what's that?
I'm laughing because I didn't really have a vision. I was desperate.
Hey.
When you guys said you wanted to do a mission trip, I panicked because I'm like, what are we going to do? And and so I said, "Would you guys come up and we're going to do this Christmas open house and we'll brainstorm." And so I remember in that living room brainstorming with you, and I forget when the camp idea came up, but somehow we drove out to the camp and met with Tom and Brenda and
Yeah.
ask, "Hey, if we have a group come up, could they stay here and maybe they can do work for you in the
Yeah.
mornings?" And then we began to the need we felt at the time was marriage and parenting. That was a
Sure.
need that we felt like we could be an appeal to a wide audience and then share the love of Christ and the truth of Jesus with people. So yeah, it was kind of a evolving conversation that you and I had that weekend, and Sarah,
Yeah.
and as a result, that's what we came up with Marriage and Parenting Week and MAP Week, we called it. And
Yeah.
Tom and Brenda opened the camp up to you guys. You guys worked your tail off for how many years? And I
Woo.
never knew all that you guys were doing in the mornings. And I expected you to do a Bible school at night with the kids. And we did marriage and parenting lessons for the parents. So that's kind of what it was. And that was in 2000, you said 12?
2012 was the very first
Wow.
mission trip. 2011, so fall 2011, like I mean, the story goes, I get pulled into a lunch meeting with my former boss. He says, we got this missionary we're supporting up in Canada. I think you should talk to him because I think it has a great potential for the teens to have a mission trip.
Mm-hmm.
I made that phone call, and like one of the things Greg, like it's not you just know, it's just like all in God's hands and God's time is like I hate making cold calls. There's nothing in life that I despise more than calling someone that I have no connection to and being like, hey, can we do something
Right,
together?
right.
But I was just like, God, just like lead me in this. And I'm like, there's no phone call that I am more grateful for making than that phone call, just
Interesting.
because of what it brought. This like the
Yeah.
friend, like the
Right.
friendship and the ministry and everything that we've been able to do together over all these years. But yeah, so we come up for that. I remember coming up for the thing, sitting down and just one of the things I appreciate because my wife has always been a very mature person for her age. I am eternally grateful that you guys were patient with me as a 26-year-old child.
That's wild. You were only 26, man. Because now I have kids that are 26, and I'm just like, wow,
Your youngest is 26, right? No, wait. Is
24.
she?
Yeah,
24.
24.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I come into your home and I mean, I just remember like joking around with your kids and all kinds of stuff. And like I look back on that, I'm like, oh my goodness, they were so patient
No,
with
it was.
me.
You guys end up your trips, not only you personally, but your trips with your church ministered to my kids, my teenage children, immensely because
Oh, we
you were
love
the
them.
group that they didn't have in many ways.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, and my kids still,
Oh my goodness,
you
yes.
know, Steve, they think you're the greatest. So it's like it's
Oh,
wonderful. No, they do.
oh.
They love it. They love seeing you and Sarah and the kids. So
We adore them. Absolutely adore your kids. But yeah, so that summer of 2012, I remember coming up for the very first time, and like there was just such a piece about being first off Willow Springs Camp, which Tom and Brenda led that camp for I don't know 20 years. We were the
yeah,
first
yeah,
one of the first groups that they brought in to like do work, and I have to say like they're the ones that made this trip in a lot of ways what it is in the sense of being as affordable as
right.
it
Well,
is.
they made it
Like,
work for sure. Yeah.
yeah, without their assistance in all of this, like this trip could have been hundreds of more dollars if we would have had to stay in a hotel or find other lodging, that kind of thing. Like we would have never been able to do what we're so
Right.
like once again could not be more grateful to Willow Springs camp and like Jake, their new camp administrator, has continued the tradition. That was one of the big fears was
Hmm.
after COVID and Tom kind of transitioning out of the role, he brings in a new camp administrator. I'm like, well, it's definitely over now. Like any like chance of us coming back to Canada, it's going to look really, really different. We're going to have to find a place to stay. And Jake's like, no, I want to continue the tradition. All I've heard is good things. Um, but what was really cool was like we ended up, and I feel like we're jumping too far ahead. Was we ended up getting to do it together. But before we get to that, like you guys, so we do marriage and parenting. Um, Oh, I had nothing to do with marriage and parenting. You guys led marriage and parenting, which, like, getting back to the whole point here is like, in my mind, you had already like figured it all out. So I get like you're like, I was just getting rolling with the punches, trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing. In my mind, you'd already like figured all this out. You and Ann had already kind of fleshed out exactly what you wanted to see happen.
Hmm.
Um, for it, but it's kind of funny, like, how you could look back and be like, I didn't know. I wasn't 100% certain. I just kind
Yeah,
of had
not
an
at the time I
inkling.
did. At the time, I
Yeah.
was just like, okay, this is a need. I think this, and it was just neat. It was a God thing, just
Oh,
how it all worked out for sure. Even
100%.
meeting Tom and Brenda, that happened because in between stopping working with the one church and doing our own church, we end up going to a church north of us. The first Sunday we sat there, this gentleman in front of me, during the greeting time, turned around, or somehow we met, and I said something about, what do you do? And he said, well, I'm a camp director, and they're from the U.S. originally, and but had been at this camp, and they described the camp, and I'm like, we drive right by that. Then I've never seen it, and it's just
Yeah.
off of McCowan Road.
Yep.
We said, well, we're looking for a camp for our kids. And so we drove up the next Monday, and that was just the beginning before we even met you guys, meeting Tom and
Yeah.
Brenda. And so just so many things, God just put the pieces together for all this ministry that would happen for years. And what a blessing.
Oh, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like to look back on all of like the little pieces that God strung
Yes,
together to make this
for sure.
happen that would lead to marriage and parenting seminars like the MAP week that you guys did with a couple, like you always had like guest speakers and stuff that would come in and
Yeah.
help you teach it,
Yep.
while we did vacation Bible school
Mm-hmm.
for the little ones, which was always like, and even I think we even had a teen element for a few years
We
because
did.
some of those
Yep.
kids would age out, and like that was a challenge in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that was probably the hardest demographic in Canada to
Right.
minister to, because like the adults were mature enough to want it, the kids were young enough to like just kind of listen and kind of go through it, the teens were like, whew. That was always the most challenging. But what
Yep.
we've seen come out of that, I mean, like we have like David, for example, who is just like, we've seen now he wants to pursue ministry, like it, like, putting that time in, I mean, and just planting those seeds and just watching what God ends up doing in the lives of these young men and women
Mm-hmm.
that you've had. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So we do this, I mean, from 2012, I think, until 2018. It was 2018?
2018, we moved back here, but you guys came and did Map Week that year with us in June. We moved here in August.
That's right. So that was like pretty much
That
at
was
the end.
kind of the end of one of the, there was going to, what we thought might be the last Map Week.
Yeah.
And
I
once,
remember.
you know,
Yeah, I remember many, many prayers and tears and all kinds of stuff going into, making those decisions to transition out. And you guys just had, opportunities like, especially with wanting to be closer to family after like dedicating your life to, being in the mission field for over a decade. Um, to be closer to family, which is like what is even more crazy to me is like it's Meadville, which is,
yeah,
from us, it's only an hour, which I mean, selfishly was like the most incredible thing because it's like, well, like we're not going to be with the O'Boyles in Canada, but now we have the O'Boyles like right up the road. So it
right.
really, really worked out. Um, and we could edit this part out. Share as much or as little as you want to. Like what led you to deciding like outside, like so family obviously, but what was like a catalyst for
Sure.
moving on to like the next phase of life?
Yeah, we had been there for, since 2009. We moved in August of 2009. And first couple years we were just trying to figure our way and sludging through it, and by 2012, 13, we were in the midst of this church plant, and things were booming and going good, but we needed help, and we got helpers in 2006, 17, 16, 16.
Mm, yeah.
And things were really humming. We were starting to get really to the place where we were trying to move the church toward, autonomy, or just even being recognized as a true church, because right now we're still fledgling in so many ways. But Ann's dad was having some health issues, and we began to wrestle with that. And 2017, we took a sabbatical for a couple months, spent some time with them, and I needed to get away from some of the stressors of life and ministry,
Yep.
and didn't know at the time that God was, even again, planting the seeds of provision for future, as I met with the pastor here in Meadville, Pastor Tim, And he had indicated, because we said someday we figure we'll be here in Meadville. I had always told God when we were dating or young married, I forget the timing, that God, I don't want to live in Meadville. And I told Ann, I don't ever want to live in Meadville. And again, you
This
don't do
is number
that.
two in this
You don't do
conversation.
that. Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
But, we had also come to the conclusion, when you're, and when your parents need us, we'll be there and we'll do that. And so in 2018, I think it was in January, no, it was in Christmas time. It was December. Just spending time with them, recognizing they really shouldn't go through another winter alone. And
Yeah.
so we began to think that through. By January, we had pretty much become convinced that's what God wanted for us. And so we began to make that step toward, and we didn't know for sure if we would have a job here in Meadville. The mission was willing to work with us for a while in that transition. And so we were able to maintain some support in that transition. And then when we got here, with the intent, we moved back with the intent that the church might possibly bring us on for support. Not support,
Mm.
bring us on as pastor, uh,
Yeah.
as a outreach and discipleship pastor. So we pursued that, and by October of 2018, yeah, that vote was taken, and we were brought on in 2019. January, I became officially an associate pastor here at Calvary Baptist in Meadville.
Yeah.
But God used a lot of different things in that process to get us here. There's times that you just wonder, did we do it? No, I really didn't. I'm one that when I turn the page and I'm looking ahead. What's next? And
Yep.
what's God want to use us? And so, yeah, been here since 2018 now. And
I can't believe it. Like that doesn't seem like
yeah,
it's almost been a decade.
going on almost 8 years. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long because it seems like, and once again, like we always say, like COVID kind of screwed up everything, like timelines and everything. It's like there's like
Mhm.
the absence of anything happening for like 2 years.
Did feel like
Um,
that.
but I remember going up that 1 year without you guys being there. I
I
think it
remember
was
hearing about it, I think, and I was just like so sad, almost like, I can't believe we're not there.
you were sad. Like
Right.
I was devastated. And it's not to say that like we found some level of footing. I just
Mm-hmm.
remember that being a year where that summer trip we go up, like we are now, like our focus was solely on Willow Springs camp, like in the morning, and then Tom helped us figure out some jobs that we could do in the evening to other local ministries.
Okay.
And I remember coming home from that trip and I'm like, I think the season might be over. Like this season of ministry might be over for us as well. And it was like such a I don't know how to put it. Like it was like, but like wow, like you don't realize something is coming to an end, or you think
Mhm.
something's coming to an end, and it's like this just like kind of downer kind of feeling that you experience. And then COVID happens. And we had already planned for the 2020 trip, even though I was like, not really. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this anyway, because it's like, we're not serving alongside the O'Boyles, not that ends ministry in and of itself, just because,
Right.
but I was having a very hard time with it. And Willow Springs and this trip had become like, you know, not just it was a refuge, like in a lot of ways. Like I would go and it was hard work all week, but it was such a bright spot on my calendar that I was like, I hope this never ends. And it was like, and then things just shift and life changes and life happens. And so 2020 happens and Canada shut down. And then Canada is also shut down in 21 and 22. Like their restrictions were crazy much higher than the United States. And then 20, I think 3 rolls around and you and I have a conversation and we're like, you know what? I think it's time for us to go back, but let's do it together. Like, and because
Yeah, I remember you kind of inviting me or however it worked, and I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go back with you guys.
yeah,
And you said, no, we're going to go with you guys. And it's like, no, we both were deference to each other, but it's just you guys kept it going. You kept that alive, and that's the beauty of it. Is I wasn't sure what role I could play going forward, but it's been a delight to be able to
yeah, oh my goodness.
team up with you guys and go back with your youth and our kids and
Yeah.
By the way, I've got 18 signed up and 10
That's
adults
awesome.
or more. So we got a
I'm
huge group.
Deposit Sunday is this Sunday, so
Okay.
I'll know how many students are for sure going. But backtracking just a bit, I have to give a lot of credit. Like that trip in 23 does not happen without Sarah. Like,
Hmm.
and she's not here to be part of the conversation. She's got her a billion responsibilities right now that we have, like with everything going on at our church.
Hmm.
Um, but I was so like discouraged, I guess is the word, by like kind of like where had everything gone. I remember her saying like, well, why don't we like open this invitation up and like why don't we try to make this something different and keep it going? And she was the one
Hmm.
that fought hard to make
Hmm.
this trip continue. So if there is a linchpin in all of this that keeps the consistency, I mean, and a lot of times it always is her that I have to give a lot of credit to, because like there's times where I'm like, I'm done, I'm out, and she's like, let's try one more thing and see if this works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it because now this will be our, I think this summer is going to be our fourth trip
Right.
together up there, and the trip has gotten so much bigger than I think it ever was in the past. I mean,
Sure.
when I would come, I would bring between, I think the first year we had 9 students. I think our maximum was like 20 students, 21 students. And
Okay.
now we're bringing a full team of like over 50 people. But I mean,
Right.
we have, you bring 18 to 20 students, I bring like, you know, anywhere from like 12 to 15 students, and then our leaders on top of that. And then now we have a workforce. I think last year we got all the work done in a matter of 2.5 days. Like I think Wednesday afternoon, they're like, "Well, we don't have anything else for you guys to do here at Willow Springs," which was good and bad because now we're just kind of sitting on our hands a little bit,
Hmm.
trying to find little odd jobs to do. I know Jake has said this year, he's like, "I got more work for you guys to do now than I ever had before," which is awesome. Um, and in fairness, they had just had a baby too. Like they had
Hmm.
just like, I mean, they had a million things going on, but I couldn't be more grateful that we get to serve alongside one another now,
Yes.
and like and continue this ministry in a slightly different capacity, uh, but still fulfilling the same mission, which is ministering to our Chinese brothers and sisters in Markham, Ontario, which is like Stouffville, Ontario, whatever. The Greater
Mhm.
Toronto area is what we'll
Yep.
call it. But it's so cool how those relationships have been maintained, how God has continued to bring all of this together. So every time we return, I don't feel like we've missed a step. Like, how do you feel about it? Do you still feel
No,
like that?
it's again, time has a way of kind of creating that, and I wish the couple years back I went up there a couple different times and had to have chances to minister, which I think was good. I think the last time I was there was May, well, last year's Map Week, in June, and so I think in one sense there is that, but as soon as we show up, it's like we never left.
Yep.
Except the kids have all gotten older, you know,
Yeah.
and none of us get older, but the kids just get older. I don't
Yeah,
know,
that's right, man.
but and so in that sense, there's an element of distance, and I'm not as communicating as much with our friends throughout the week because of just you end up getting locked in
Yeah.
here. But it
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
mean
life.
our relationship hasn't changed, because when we go back, it's still sweet fellowship and encouragement, especially Friday nights, as the bonfire and hot dog roast and devotional, and someone shares a testimony usually, and that's been very impactful. And I know our Chinese brothers and sisters love it, and they bring their friends out still to that.
Yep.
So it's been a neat opportunity to keep those connections alive.
Yeah. And we're talking about this year, like making that change. I mentioned it to my students. I'm sure you
Mhm.
mentioned it to your students. It's like let's bring that element, that's Friday night element, to a few other nights. Like let's not just like keep it to that
Yeah,
one night. Let's let testimonies ring out.
yeah.
Let's have more worship together. Let's do all the things that you
Hmm.
know we know people are connecting to, and
Hmm.
it's cool to see that we're entering into the next evolution in some ways
Yeah.
of this trip.
Hmm.
That it you know something that I thought as a pessimist was done like in 2019. And
Right.
God's like, no, there's so much more that could be done. And
Right.
it's really, really cool that we can continue
No, it
doing.
is. But I didn't necessarily see how we were going to be able to keep doing it, but you kept it alive, and just the opportunity because you kept the relationship with Willow Springs alive, because that does make it possible
Yeah.
for so many of us to come. Because
Yeah.
bringing that kind of a size group in a hotel would be crazy, but because we got this wonderful setting where we do work in ministry, and yet we have the fellowship and the bonding between our two youth groups and our leaders, and it's been a real beautiful picture of the body of Christ
Absolutely.
working together.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I find most incredible. I've worked with so many youth ministries over the years, and this is not a knock on anybody, but there is no like teen ministry that we have connected with that there is this level of camaraderie,
Right.
like actual feeling of like connectivity where our teens have like felt bonded to one another,
Yep.
that they can be apart for a year. I mean, some of them keep up with each other throughout the entire year,
Right. Right.
but it could be an entire year later and they come back together and there's no like, this is, that's your team, this is our team.
Right.
Like that has never been the mentality. It is just a
Right.
melding of like, which is really beautiful. I mean, that's what the body of Christ is supposed to be. It's not supposed to
Yep.
be like that's they do it that way, we do it this way kind of thing. It's like we
Well, I know
are.
that the comments, the encouragement. I think that from year to year is our kids look forward to reconnecting with New Life,
Yep. Same.
and the younger kids who are seventh and eighth graders who hear about this, I think they go into this mentality with a mentality of, oh, this is a cool group.
Yep.
And so it's been really, truly a God thing. And I
Yeah.
praise God for you and your leaders and just the philosophical, because I think philosophically we approach ministry philosophically the same, biblically the same. And so we're not,
100%.
we're not, we're not having to fight over issues that are stupid.
No, no, and I think that was
We're
if we
focused
go.
on the main things. And we're focused on serving Willow Springs while we're there, and our fellow Chinese friends and brothers and sisters. So it's been
Yeah.
cool.
And I think that's kind of been the bond since year one. Is
Yeah.
like those things lined up so well, like
Right.
how we approach ministry, our mentality towards ministry, like things biblically, everything. I mean, that predates even like our youth groups getting together. I mean, that goes back to 2011,
Right.
which again, like that's just God aligning everything
Mm-hmm.
for,
Mm-hmm.
for his honor and for his glory,
Yep.
so that people come to know him. So really, really neat. And I think they also like our students now, they bond over their mutual love of picking on me like the entire
Yeah.
week,
That is
which
true.
is like, I
That is
think
true.
that is a driving force. So like, yeah, whatever keeps them bonded. If like, I could take the role of villain, whatever.
I won't deny that they enjoy that.
Oh, I know, I know. I feel like every year they up it. I mean, I hear it from my students. I've
Well,
already heard it from my students. They're like,
you're
so
a good
Pastor, what's
you're a
that?
good you're a good sport most of the time, and when you're not, they know
Most of the time.
they know that they can needle you just a little bit, and they kind of like
Oh, they
that.
do. I mean, because I do the same. I give them a hard time right
Oh,
back.
you do.
But I was already getting asked. They're like, "So, Pastor Steve, how many naps are you going to take this year every day?" Like, I'm like, whatever, whatever. I'll work circles around you guys. Anyway, but yeah, Greg, thank you so much, man, for taking some time
Hey,
to,
thanks for
to
the
meet with
opportunity.
me. Yeah, man, absolutely. Is there anything like you feel like we didn't cover in this?
No, I think we've covered it. That's been my
No.
life circle. Is
Yeah, 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 yeah.
God, don't ever say no to God, and He won't waste anything. He's gonna use it.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Well, thank you, buddy. I love
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Love you too.
Thank you so much. And this is Beyond Sunday. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.